Hi, in this tutorial we will give an overview of Django. Django is a Python web development framework. So here you see the contents of this tutorial. First, a short introduction. Then we will get started with this Django Web Development Framework. Then we will create a Django project and a Django app. And as part of creating a Django app, we need to create views, templates, and models. So we will introduce how we can create views, templates, and models. We will also introduce how we can retrieve data from an SQLite database. Finally, we will also make some small improvements with our graphical user interface using a CSS library or framework called Bootstrap. So let's start with a short introduction. So there are many web development frameworks out there. Some examples are PHP, ASP.NET Core for Microsoft, Django, etc. And the focus in this tutorial will be this Django Web Development Framework. And Django is a server-side web development framework where you use Python as a programming language. There exist also many different types of web frameworks where Python is used as a programming language. And in this tutorial we will focus on Django, and probably Django is probably the most popular Python web framework today. Other popular Python web framework is Flask, and we have also other types of Python web frameworks out there. So as mentioned, Django is a Python web development framework, and Django is a so-called back-end or server-side web development framework. And it's popular and common to use in combination with a database, and also Django has support for databases like SQLite, MySQL, MariaDB, PostgreSQL, etc. And also part of the Django framework, when you install it, it comes with an SQLite database. That's the default database. But typically for more advanced applications or applications in productions, or if you have applications with many users, etc., typically you should use another database system than SQLite, like MySQL, MariaDB, or PostgreSQL. And Django is also free and open source and written in Python. I also recommend the homepage of the Django Web Development Framework, which is this URL. Here you find lots of information about Django in general. Here you find examples, tutorials, etc. Here you see a sketch of the Django workflow. So typically you sit here in your web browser on your client, and then you enter a URL like this, and then basically you send an HTTP request to the Django web server, and typically that one connects and communicates with a database, and then send data back to the Django framework, and then return a HTTP response in form of an HTML web page. So typically you use Django on the backend or the server side, and then you have the client side where you have your web browser, HTML. Here you can use CSS, JavaScript, etc. I guess since Django is based on Python, you can use any type of editor that is tailor-made for Python, or other types of editors as well, like Visual Studio Code, which is a multi-platform and multi-use code editor. In this tutorial we will use Visual Studio Code. Other recommended editors for Django development is an editor called PyCharm. This is a Python editor, but it also has built-in support for Django development. And of course you can also use Visual Studio, and also in Visual Studio you have a separate Django template that you can use as a starting point for creating your Django applications. I guess there are also many other editors that you can use, but in this tutorial we will use Visual Studio Code. If not, I will recommend PyCharm or using the full version of Visual Studio. So Visual Studio Code, it's a free and open source code editor developed by Microsoft. It's cross-platform, so It works on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS, and it supports many programming languages like Python, etc. And also there's a Python extension from Microsoft that you should install in order to get support for the Python programming language in this Visual Studio Code editor. And also in addition, there are many different extensions for the Django development as well. So in general, Visual Studio Code is very flexible because you can install different types of extensions like this Python extension. And if you install this Python extension, you will get support for the Python programming language. And here you see an example of a Django extension. If you install this one or one of the other Django extensions, you will also get support for the Django development framework. And as mentioned, PyCharm is another editor. PyCharm is a tailor-made code editor for Python, and it also has support for this Django development framework. It's cross-platform. It works for Windows, Linux, Mac OS. It comes with the free and paid versions. It's a free community edition, and there are also some free pro versions for students and educators. Finally, you can also use Visual Studio, which is an integrated development environment from Microsoft. And if you are familiar with using Visual Studio from already, and familiar with C# programming, etc., where you use Visual Studio, guess Visual Studio is a great editor for creating your Django applications. If you want to use Visual Studio as your Django code editor, make sure that you select Python development. And also this, when you select this one, you have these options for these sub components, and here you need to select Python web support as well. And when you select these two options, you get access to this Django Web Project and Web Project and other Python web development framework like Flask. So these two are for Django, and here you have a template for Flask, etc. But typically you just use this one, Django Web Project, in order to create a Django web application using this Visual Studio Code.